Welcome to part 4 of my inks on the Feeding Frenzy movie art poster slash DVD cover. Here I'll be inking Mr. Plinkett, the main man, the villain of the piece. Getting a chance to draw Mr. Plinkett was the kind of like the driving force of me contacting Mike Stoklasa and asking him, please let me do some work with you, I just want to work with you. So it was important to me that I got the likeness down. You know, the Mr. Plinkett character is supposed to be like 140 years old, actually, in the in the reviews, and I fought the temptation to make him look really, really old, but and it was more important to make him look more like Rich Evans, the actor, for his role in the movie, than to go with the caricature that has been kind of created by Mike in the Red Letter Media reviews. So after isolating the reference here, the first thing I did was create a seam along the edge of his hat, and did that same action where everything that I've drawn becomes white pixels surrounded by black pixels, and then created a bit of a drop shadow underneath the edge of that seam by just duplicating that layer that has the seam on it a couple of times and edging it upwards so that underneath it there would be the bottom line art would stick out a little bit more and create a bit of a drop shadow instead of me tracing around the base of it. Since Plinkett is in the background, again, there's going to be less need to have a bunch of spot blacks or shadows on him. So mainly it's about defining the contours or the outlines of shapes, like around individual fingers or knuckles or around the outside of the gun, to establish those as individual shapes that are more easily recognizable, creating basically silhouettes or accentuating the silhouettes. And the revolver here in Plinkett's hand is again a 3D model, so I'm using my inking to kind of break up some of those lines to make it a little bit more organic and make it match in with the rest of my inked line work. Plinkett is kind of an unkempt sort of guy who's the texture of his clothes should be a little bit older and have a little bit of that same sort of rough around the edges. He's probably worn this same jacket for years and years. He doesn't take very good care of himself or take much pride in his appearance. So I wanted to give a lot of detail and little wrinkles and stuff to make it look like his clothes were well worn. Here I'm getting into his glasses area. I wanted to give him, even in the reflection, you kind of indicate a little bit of a scowl through there, even if you can't see through the glasses, even though they're mirrored or sunglasses or whatever. So it just portrays a, you know, his overall mood or something. So there's nothing that says that the that the reflection wouldn't look kind of like a scowl, but you're not actually supposed to be able to see through it much. So. His jacket ends up being, in the coloring phase, I end up adding a texture to it. It's kind of a checkerboard or plaid or whatever. So I left that kind of open from the line art. I didn't add any of that in the line art, in other words. Here I got down to a shoe and I realized I had forgotten to add his shoelaces. So I'm using that same action again to draw on a new line. And then it makes you know, all the pixels white and then adds a black contour line around it. This is pretty handy for making, you know, this sort of thing, seams and shoestrings and drawstrings and that sort of thing. Pretty fast, much faster than circling around it and, you know, drawing it that way. He sits in a wheelchair and has a cane, one of those old codger canes, so have to finish out some of the wood texture there. And then I go back to the gun, because I kind of just jump around to whatever catches my eye, and breaking up that line art and make it look a little bit more hand-drawn. Give it some texture like he's fired it a few times. Accentuating some of the shadows in his face. I knew where the light sources were going to be coming from anyway whenever I got to coloring, so I knew that most of the shadows should fall on his right-hand side, or our right-hand side here. So I could leave the back part of him kind of open so that I could give him kind of a strong light source on his back. That ends the inks phase. Here I kind of zoomed out and then turned off and on some of the inks, and then turned on my little separator guide that I had indicated to me and to Mike what the background would look like. And I'm fixing the matte so that it goes from gray to white, and this was just my mock-up Feeding Frenzy logo. They used a different one, and then here is Mr. Plinkett isolated by himself. As you can see, I didn't ink through on everything, so there's areas that I just left as the contour and stuff. And although it took me a while to get this cover totally completed, because I had to do it in between all my DC Comics work and stuff, I had a really fun time with it, and I hope that you guys enjoy taking a look and seeing the process of me inking. Hopefully it wasn't too redundant or boring with me, the constant noodling of line work. It was really fun working with Mike at Red Letter Media, and I hope to do something like this again sometime whenever I have a little bit of free time again, though that seems to be few and far between. But thanks again, everyone. Take care.